we were on to communication. We have seen the definition of communication. We have seen what is effective communication. We went on to see the importance of communication. And yesterday we had started with the communication process. In communication process, we have seen the communication process from one side. That is, you have a sender. We have seen what is the sender, what is the role of sender, and something about the message. So a sender is having a message in his mind. He encodes it different words. He makes a package of words. Okay, and after making the package of words, like अभी मैंने ये package of word ये package बनाया आपको बताने के लिए, ये sentence मैंने बनाया कि he makes package of words, right? So ये package of word is nothing but encoding of message of mine in order to transfer some information to you. Okay, something like this, or whatever me and Ananya were discussing. So I was encoding something, and then she was decoding it, understanding it, and then she was giving a feedback to me. Like I asked her, do you have any informal WhatsApp group, right? So this was the encoding of my message. Do you have any informal WhatsApp group? It means मुझे उसको क्या पूछना था कि बाबा, are you interacting with your friends? Is there another platform apart from the normal platform that we are having? Okay, ये सब मुझे उसको पूछना था. And how did I ask her? I asked her in a sentence by encoding कि do you have an informal WhatsApp group? Okay, this is how I have my question. This is how I have encoded my sentence, and I have given it to her. At her end, what she did was, she decoded it. Okay, and how did I do it? How did I transfer it? How did I did this communication? What was my channel? The channel was Cisco WebEx meeting, whereby I was visible to her. She was not visible to me. Okay, and it was an audio kind of an communication. From my side, it was audio video kind of communication. From her side, it was an audio kind of an communication. And through this channel, through this Cisco WebEx channel, what I had done is I have communicated with her. Right? Understood? So so what I did was, I had a message. I was the source. I was the person who wanted to interact. I encoded that message, and through the Cisco WebEx channel, I have sent that message to Ananya, to which she responded. So what did Ananya do on her side? Ananya on her side decoded the message. Okay, are you understanding? So she did the decoding of the message. She understood the message. After understanding the message, she interpreted what I wanted to ask her. पूछना चाहते हैं मनीष वानी सर, मुझे पूछना चाहते हैं कि जो तुम्हारा नॉर्मल ग्रुप है व्हाट्सएप पे, जिसमें MIT WPU फर्स्ट ईयर B Pharm, if I am not wrong, that is the name of the group, isn't it? MIT WPU first year B Pharm is the name of the group. Apart from that group, is there any other group that in which she is a part of, or is any other group existing? This is what she decoded in her mind. After decoding, then she gave me the response. Okay, so the next step after I send once I have sent the message, what she had done was, or from her side, the first step that she did was, she has decoded the message. Is the decoding always right? In my case, whatever communication was there, she decoded the message very rightly. Is the decoded always right? Okay, sometimes it may be right, sometimes the decoding may be wrong. जैसे मैंने आपको कल एक एग्जांपल बताया था कि I call up my friend and I tell him come for a movie. Now his decoding was come for a movie without his wallet, without any money, free of charge. He's getting to see the movie. That was his decoding, which was wrong, isn't it? I am telling you, you are having examination. Okay. Now my message, I am the sender. I am sending you a message. You are going to have examination, right? Now there are 45 students. Each student has decoded it in different way. One student thought that immediately now Vani sir is going to stop the lecture and he is going to take the examination. Okay, my sentence was, you are going to have examination, is my sentence, is my message. So one student thought that immediately afterwards I'm going to have the examination. I'm going to stop the lecture, I'm going to have the examination now. Other person thought that tomorrow I'm going to take the examination. The third person thought that in near future I'm going to take the examination. Somebody else thought that after finishing of this chapter there is going to be the examination. The another person decoded that this subject is going to be assessed some moment of the time. Okay, so one sentence was decoded by you all in different ways, right? So this is how is the success of communication lies in two things. One, how you are encoding the message. Okay. Secondly, how the other person is decoding the message. So this encoding and decoding, how it takes place, depend upon this the success of the communication takes place. Your encoding should be correct and his decoding at his end also should be correct. Okay, are you understanding? Your college is going to start soon. Somebody may feel tomorrow, somebody may feel next week, somebody may feel after 1 month, somebody may feel after 2 months, somebody may feel after the end of COVID scenario, okay, and so on and so forth. So one sentence can have different kind of a meaning. Also, this decoding becomes difficult if the knowledge of that person is if the person doesn't have knowledge about the topic, okay, then it becomes more difficult, right? Supposing there are some students who are not following, or there are some people who are not following IPL, and I say RCB has reached the playoff stage. This is my sentence. RCB has reached playoff state. This is my message. There may be few people who are not understanding also. अरे वाणी सर बता क्या रहे बीच में? What does he want to say? Who is RCB? आधे लोगों को समझा होगा कि RCB means Royal Challengers Bangalore. This is referring to. But the person who doesn't have the knowledge about IPL, who doesn't have the knowledge about the team, they won't understand what is RCB, what mean by RCB. So here my encoding is correct, whereby I said RCB has reached the playoff stage. Encoding is perfectly right. But decoding at his end is not going to take place because he doesn't have any knowledge about that particular subject. So this encoding and decoding should be very proper in order for we to communicate properly. If this encoding and decoding is faulty because of many reasons, this is nothing but a barrier in communication. Whatever I said that RCB has qualified to supposing playoff state, and if half of the students have not understood it, then this is a barrier of communication that is there in between me. And as there is a barrier of communication that is there, which we call it as a noise, okay, in many textbooks it is called as a noise, that because of this noise, what is happening is, because of this barrier, the communication is not happening in between us. So you have to take care. Why we are understanding this process of communication is because you have to take care in at all the aspects. You have to use the sender has to know the message very properly. He has to himself understand the message. He has to himself encode the message very properly. After encoding the message, he has to choose a very proper channel to send this communication. अगर channel proper नहीं होगा, तो communication won't be reached. So he has to he has to use a proper channel for communication. Then he has to send the message. After sending the message, the person at the other end has to, if this decoding is not proper, then also there's going to be problem. Okay. So in order to decode the message, what the person has to do first, like yesterday, Isha was there. I don't remember. Isha has asked me the question of listening ability, isn't it? She talked about good listening. So first of all, the person who is the receiver, he should first of all listen to this message very actively. आधा सुन के उसने एकदम रिएक्ट नहीं करना चाहिए. He has to listen to this message properly. He has to, if it is a written message, then he has to read it carefully. Accurately decode the message. Okay. And successful decoding, you have to remember that it is a skill. Successful decoding is a skill, right? And for that, in order to develop that skill, what you have to do is you have to read the message very carefully. It is a written message, or you have to listen the message very carefully. Or if it is a sign language, then you have to see it very carefully. You have to understand it, what the other person wants to say. Now, confusion is very likely to happen. Okay. If in the communication process, if the defaulter, okay, if the decoding is very faulty, so if the decoding is not done properly, then there is going to be confusion in the communication. You may be going to say something else, he is going to understand something else, and he may pass on it to the other person. I don't know whether you during your when you were kids, have you played that game? Our teacher used to play that game when we used to go to picnic, etc. We used to all made to sit in a line, okay, and then the teacher used to give one message to the first person, to say something into the ears of the first person. The first person used to listen it. The first student used to listen it, and he has to go to the second person and he has to pass on that message. The second person pass on the message to the third person, and the third person pass on the message to the fourth person, and so on. The message is been passed. Okay, you will be amazed to see what was the message. Have you played that game? Anybody has played that game?
Yes, sir.
Who
Yes,
is
sir.
this? Who was it who said yes? I was not able
Ananya
to.
Mandal.
Acha, Ananya, you have played that game. Any other person who have played that game?
Yes,
Sir,
sir.
I have
Yes,
not
I have
played.
played it.
Yes. So many of them have played. And what do you find? जो पहला मैसेज होता है, that is totally different than what the last person's message is there. Okay, why this is happening? Because the
Miscommunication.
message, this is miscommunication. Why this miscommunication is happening? This miscommunication is happening because of the encoding and decoding of the message. Every person encodes in his own style, okay, pass it on to the other person. He decodes the message. After decoding the message, he himself encodes the message, again pass it on to the next person, who in turn encodes and decodes. Okay, this process goes on continuously, right? And each person understands this message in his own way, interprets in his own ways, and pass it on to the other person in his own way. And finally, what you see is the message get totally distorted when it reaches the other person, to the final person. Imagine if this happens, how much loss it is going to be. Isn't it going to be a big loss that you are saying something and the other person is understanding something and he is decoding in his own way? Okay, so that is going to lead to a great loss. Hence, this communication has to be very strong. Your encoding has to be very strong, and your decoding has to be very strong. And as I told you yesterday, this encoding, okay, how can you make it powerful? How can you develop this communication skill? The most important thing is by the knowledge that you have. If I have knowledge about that particular subject, then I am going to be able to encode it properly, and then I am going to be able to decode it also properly. If I don't have the knowledge about the subject, then I won't be able to encode or decode it properly. Now, if there is this problem of decoding may occur if he does not have a particular knowledge, he does not have sufficient background of knowledge about that particular message. Okay, he did not understand what the person is using, because the person was using specific jargons. Jargons matlab difficult words. Okay, You are using difficult words, you are using difficult technical law language which the other person is not understanding, and because of this all these things, what happen is the decoding may be faulty, and if the decoding is faulty, it is going to have communication problem. So the next step in communication is decoding. Okay, moving ahead, after decoding comes your receiver. Okay, in this whole communication process, one of the element that is there is the receiver, who is the most important element. Who is the receiver? A receiver can be an individual person. Okay, like in the figure that I was having discussion with Ananya, then the receiver was Ananya. Okay, she was understanding, she was interpreting, she was decoding, and she was passing on the message to me. Okay, she was further communication with me. Or it can be a group, like now what is going on. Now I am interacting with near about 45 to 50 people in the group. So how many are the receivers? Now the receivers are near about 45. I have not seen the exact number now, but now the receivers are 45. So it can be a group of people, okay, or it can be individual people. Anybody can be a receiver. When there are big sorry, when there are big leaders who are speaking on from the dais, that time the group may be of even thousands, 10,000s, there may be people, lakhs of people, okay, who are the receivers. Each and every person at that moment of time, okay, interprets it differently. Okay, yesterday or before yesterday, one of the leaders of Congress, okay, he called the other woman from BJP, if I'm not wrong, in MP, that she is an item. Okay, this was the words which were used by him. Okay, she is an item or something of that sort. I don't remember now. और बवाल हो गया. People immediately started that he is not respecting the woman, so on and so forth. And then he came up with a statement that this is not what I wanted to say. What I wanted to say was something different. Okay, the encoding was wrong. Okay, in his case, what was wrong was the encoding that he did was wrong, and that encoded sentence he said. So encoding was totally wrong. When he used the word item, that item word which was used by him, okay, for encoding his sentence was totally wrong. Okay, understood? So item word, this item word, when it is used for a female, it is used in a very different context. Okay, so Kamal Nath ji, who is from Congress, when he used this word, it came in newspaper. That's why I'm giving you this example. When he used this word of item for his opponent who is there in the election, okay, this encoding of word was wrong, and there were the receivers, okay, these receivers, okay, who were group of people like us. What they did was they decoded it, in a different way, and because of which Kamal Nath had to say sorry, because his encoding was not proper. Yeah, coming back now, so you have a receiver. A receiver may be a single person, or he may be a group, okay, who receives, decodes, and interprets the message, okay, which is sent by whom? Which is sent by the sender. Okay, he a listener, he may be a reader if he's reading the message. Okay, if he's reading a book, then he is a reader. He is a listener. He may be an audience, or he may be an observer. If it is not a verbal or written communication, if it is just with the help of sign language, then he is just a observer. Okay, a receiver usually decodes the message, and hence he is known as a decoder also. Decoding is the process, while the person who decodes it is the decoder. Okay, so the receiver can also be known as a decoder, and we expect that this decoder, this receiver, has the ability and skill, first of all, to receive the message, to decode the message, to interpret the message. Okay, then and then only you are going to do that kind of a communication with him, right? Because you know that this person is having the ability of receiving, decoding, and interpreting. I am not going to talk about what you call that table tennis. This sports with a player, with a person who doesn't have a knowledge about table tennis. Okay, because he doesn't have the skill, he doesn't have the ability in order to receive, decode, or interpret the message. Okay, the the receiver, okay, he is ineffective. Okay, or the message becomes ineffective if the receiver is intimidated. Intimidated by what? Intimidated by the position or authority of the center, right? अगर आपका बॉस आपको बता रहा है, okay, now there is a difference between you talking with your mother and you talking with your father, isn't it? जहाँ पे भी father is strict or mother is strict, whatever, depending upon that. Okay, so whoever is strict at your home, or if your grandfather is very strict, then you are in some tension while talking with him. And when this tension is there, when you are intimidated by that person, okay, because of his position, because of his authority, okay, what you usually do is you don't ask for clarification, right? जैसे अगर आप मेरे से डरते हो, सपोजिंग, डरने की कोई जरूरत नहीं वैसे, but mostly with the teachers you are little bit afraid, and when you are afraid from the teacher, if the teacher says something and you don't understand, the teacher asks you, have you understood? Though you have not understood, but still because of the position, because of the authority that I am having, what you are doing is you are saying, yes sir, we have understood, no problem, and you don't ask for any clarification. And because of it, what happens is the communication, it becomes ineffective. Another thing is when the is receiver is having prejudice about that particular topic. The prejudice that he is having, that this topic is very difficult, this topic is very boring. There are some people who have prejudice about maths as a subject. क्या यार मुझे मैथ्स आएगा ही नहीं. And as they have the prejudice about the subject maths, so what they do is they don't try to listen also to that subject. They have that in their mind. उनके माइंड में पहले से ही बैठा हुआ है कि मुझे मैथ समझ में नहीं आएगा. And as they have this in their mind is stuck. They are not going to receive that message. They are not, even if they receive, they are to try to decode that message. Okay, they just leave the message as such without decoding, without interpreting. Okay, because they have prejudice about that particular topic. Okay, they feel that the topic is too bored. Okay, or it is too difficult for them to understand, and that does not attempt only to understand the message, that does not attempt to decode the message. Okay, now the next thing, because of this prejudice of a topic, what happens is the communication, it becomes effective. As I have told you, the receiver also closes the mind. Okay, for a particular thing, he closes the mind and he becomes unreceptive. आपका भी ऐसा होता होगा, जब एक लेक्चर चलता है तो बीच में ही थोड़ी देर के लिए आप क्या हो जाते हैं, नॉन रिसेप्टिव हो जाते हो. योर माइंड क्लोजेस टोटली and you try to focus on different ideas. Okay, most of the times, and you wander somewhere else, you go in your own what you call that thoughts, etc., and whatever the person is trying to tell you, you don't listen to it. Okay, so your mind closes and you become unreceptive. This is basically happens to the new and different ideas. If these ideas you are not able to understand, if there are some ideas which are not able to grasp, okay, in such cases what is happening is you are becoming unreceptive and you close your mind to those specific ideas. In such cases also the communication becomes ineffective because there is some problem in the receiver. So these are the problems that the receiver may be having. These are some of the problems that the receiver may be having. The receiver may be having many such problems. Okay, now yesterday one of the student had asked me one question, okay, regarding if the person is not able to understand your message. Okay, now this may be the reason why the person is not able to understand the message. These may be some of the reasons. Okay, and if the person doesn't understand your message, okay, then the communication is going to be effective. And many a times, okay, this is the major problem in communication. That is, the receiver is not in a position to understand your message, and mostly he finds it too boring, he finds it difficult to understand, okay, or he is wandering somewhere else, right? He is not in whatever you are saying, he is not listening to you, not a good listener at that moment of time. And you agree with me, we all are good speakers, but we all are not good listeners. In listening we are very, very poor, and most of the communication, they fail because the receiver is not listening to you. And that is the reason why every time the teacher has to ask you, have you understood, are you attentive, are you paying attention, okay, so on and so forth. These questions are asked. We ask you many times this question, okay. The reason being why, because we all are not good listeners, okay. When it comes to receiving of the message, we are very, very poor. But if you want to make a communication effective, then along with a good speaker, you should be a very good listener also, you should be a giver also, so you should be a very good sender at the same time, okay. When you are saying something, you want the other person to listen. At the same time, when he is saying something, you should also be a good listener, and then only the communication is going to be successful. The second last aspects, and in most of the textbooks it is given as the last thing in communication. We have one more element, that is context, which you are going to see in the next slide. But in most of the books, this is your last element, that is the feedback. So feedback is your last element in this communication. What you do is, after receiving the message, so the sender has now decoded the message, he has sent the message to the channel, the receiver has decoded the message, he has understood the message. After understanding the message, the next most important thing is that you have to give the feedback. Now I am asking you, have you understood whatever I have said? Okay, this is what the message that I have given, and I am expecting a feedback from you, right? Somebody open the mic and tell me, have you understood whatever I have said?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So
Yes,
yes, sir. So this yes, sir is nothing but a feedback. Yes, somebody was saying something. I stopped you. What were you saying? You said yes, sir, and you were saying something further. Hello, hello. You said yes, sir, and further you were saying something. Fine, no problem, no problem. Okay. So this yes, sir is nothing but the feedback that you are giving to my communication. So my communication was understood. This was the message that I wanted to give it to you. I passed on that message. You decoded that message. And after decoding the message, you have understood what I wanted to say. And your feedback was, yes, sir. Okay. These two words were your feedback. These feedback are very, very important. Okay. From the communication point of view, which closes the loop. Now the communication process is completed. When I say the communication started with, have you understood this topic? And it ended with, yes, sir. Okay. So when you said yes, sir, that is the time that this communication process has ended. It starts with the message the sender gives, and it ends with the feedback the receiver gives. Okay. This feedback can be verbal or it can be non-verbal. When you said yes, sir, it is. अगर हम क्लासरूम में होते, then what would have happened? In the classroom, you would have just nodded your head. You would have said in this way. I would have understood it is a non-verbal communication that you are saying yes. It is not always that the feedback should be positive. Like we have seen my next slide. Okay, feedback never can be positive also, and they can be negative also. Like somebody may raise his hand and or somebody may open his mic and say, "Ki, yes sir, I want, but this is the which I want to make which I want clarification from you." Okay, it can be positive feedback also. It can be negative feedback also. It can be a feedback in the terms of just by clapping. Somebody, it can be a feedback in the form of laughter. A person is telling a joke. Okay? A person has told you a joke, and the best feedback that he receives in the person, a person is saying a poetry. The best feedback, or he is giving a speech. The best feedback can be received in the form of what? In the form of claps. So it can be a verbal communication also. It can be a verbal thing that like you said, yes sir, or it can be a non-verbal reaction or response, which can be by nodding, which can be by clapping, which can be by laughing, which can be by crying. Okay, an actor is acting very nicely. He's doing a very sad scene, and you all start crying. It is a very good response that you're giving to the actor. Okay, so the feedback can be verbal, non-verbal. It can be in the form of reaction or responses. So it is nothing but feedback is nothing but the reaction or responses. Okay, which is given by whom? It is given by the receiver. To whom? It is given to the sender. So feedback is a verbal or non-verbal reaction or response which is given by the receiver to the sender who is sending the message. Okay, understood? Now, in this case, in case of feedback, what happens is the roles are okay. Now the recipient becomes the sender, and the sender becomes the recipient. Okay. When you said yes, sir, what you did actually was you again encoded a message. You sent it across to me, and I again decoded it. So in feedback, what is happening is the receiver becomes the sender, and the sender becomes the receiver. It is very important. Okay, feedback should be received by you. Unless and until you receive the feedback, okay, the communication cannot be completed. And also, there is no guarantee about the communication. There is some misunderstanding, there is some problem, if there is some lacunae, if there is, then to be clear. More importantly, if the subject is very complex in nature, if there is a very subject, you have used very complex terms, and you have given message. Okay, if you have not understood it, then the receiver should say, I have not understood whatever you have said. Or he would say, is this what you wanted me to understand? Okay, for example, come for a movie. If somebody says you that, then as a receiver you should ask him, dear friend, तूने मुझे पिक्चर को बुलाया है, इसका मतलब टिकट तू निकाल रहा है क्या? क्या मुझे मेरा टिकट निकालना है? Are you coming to pick me up, or are you not coming to pick me up? So on and so forth. Okay, I'm just referring to the earlier example which I have given it to you. Okay, so these things should be clarified by you. These things should be cleared by you. More so important, as I have said, that it is for complex subject. If the subject is very complex, if too much of a technical term has been used by the sender, then you should ask him to simplify it. Or if the receiver has not understood your message, if he asks you to clarify, and if you are using complex languages, then try to use a simpler language. Okay, it is always easier for everyone in the audience to grasp the subject matter. Okay, if he is having the background knowledge of that subject. If there is no background knowledge of the subject, then you have to provide the background knowledge so that it becomes easier for him to understand. And if it does not have any background knowledge, then more care you have to take that the terms that you are using is very simple and straightforward. So the loop is ended with feedback. There is one more element, okay, which I want to talk about. Yeah, regarding this one more slide, which I want to tell you is about I was talking about the feedbacks. Okay. Feedbacks can come in different forms. It can become in the form of appreciation, okay, whereby you are thanking somebody, you are clapping for somebody, you are laughing for somebody, you are crying on somebody's action, etc. So this is a kind of feedback in the form of appreciation. It can be feedback in the form of, can be in the form of coaching, okay, whereby he tells you something and you tell him something. So that is the coaching that is going on. So it can be in the form of coaching, that you are trying to tell me here is a better way to do it, right? Then it is in the form of evaluation. You are doing evaluation of somebody, right? Like you are giving some, I ask you to give some seminar, you give the seminar and I give you the feedback for it. So that feedback is nothing but the evaluation, okay, for whatever seminar you have given. Feedbacks can be negative feedback also, feedbacks can be positive feedbacks also, okay. Both the feedbacks are welcome and both the feedbacks have its own importance. I have given you the examples of positive as well as negative feedback. If I ask you, have you understood a particular topic, and you say no, we have not understood this topic, then it is going to be a negative feedback. The feedback that you gave me some few moments of few minutes ago was nothing but a positive feedback, that you have understood that particular topic, whatever I was teaching. Okay. Now the last element in communication is the context. Okay. Now context is nothing but a situation. Okay. It is a setting in which you are doing that communication, right? हम बोलते थे ना, those who are from English medium, reference to context, isn't it? I have said this sentence in relation to this situation. Okay. अगर सपोजिंग आई सेड कि ऐसा बोलना नहीं चाहिए किसी को, दिस इज जस्ट एन एग्जांपल, ओके। मैंने अपने दोस्त को बोल दिया कि यार तू कुत्ता है, जस्ट फॉर एन एग्जांपल, ही गेट्स ऑफेंडेड, how did you say me, how did you say such words to me, why are you calling me kutta, right? I said no, I am calling you kutta from the context that you are so loyal, right? I am saying that you are loyal as a dog. So my context was not with reference to anything. My context was with reference to the loyalty. You understand me? So it is the particular situation in which you are delivering the message. कौन से सिचुएशन पे आप क्या बोल रहे हो, ये भी मायने करता है, isn't it? You say some sentence, other person goes and tells somebody else कि अरे वो ऐसा ऐसा कह रहा था तेरे बारे में, and then you say no, अरे यार that situation was different. In that situation, I had said you this. It was not with respect to something else. मैंने तुझे कुत्ता कहा बराबर है, लेकिन there was a discussion that was going on with respect to loyalty, and I said that यार so XYZ is as loyal as a kutta. So मैंने तुझे कुत्ता कहा, but the context was different. Understanding? So context is nothing but the situation. It is a setting in which the communication is taking place. कहाँ पे आप कम्युनिकेशन कर रहे हो और किस जगह पे आप बोल रहे हो. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, यू मस्ट हैव सीन what you call that, when the match is going on, when the cricket match is going on. I am fond of cricket, so there are many examples that I give of cricket. Okay, sorry. So when a cricket match is going on, etc., that time what happens is somebody drop match. Okay, और जो बॉलर रहता है वो उसको गाली दे देता है. You must have seen that. But that गाली is with respect to that setting. It is with respect to that situation. कि उसने कैच ड्रॉप किया है, the match is paused at a very crucial juncture, हार और जीत का मामला है, और उस समय पे उसको गाली दे देता है. So the context is what? गाली is the message, is the communication. The context is what? Context or settings of the situation is what? Cricket match. Context is what? That the catch has been dropped. The final match. Setting is the people are winning the match, and then the message of gali has been given. So the context in which the communication has been done is also very important. The setting in which the communication has been done is also very, very important. Okay, unless and until you understand the context, okay, you are not in a position to interpret that message properly. Okay, got me? Yeah. So the communication context, they include the interpersonal group, public, mass communication. These can be different contexts. Okay, mass communication, interpersonal communication, intrapersonal communication, group communication, public communication. These can be different contexts. These can be different settings. They may also include the current political and social environment. So whatever you speak is with respect to the political environment, with the current environment, with the social environment, with respect to the border culture. So that can be the context. Okay. So there are different contexts which with respect to which you are saying some particular message, and the person has to receive the message in that context only. If the context is lost, if you don't tell the context to a person, and if only the message is being told to the person, okay, then the communication may fail, because the communication is done with a particular context. Okay, so this context is also very, very important. Going back, just to revise about the communication process. Okay, so the communication process, it starts with the sender, who has the information, who has the message. This sender who is having a message, who wants to pass on the message to the receiver, encodes the message. Okay, after encoding the message, what he does is he transmits the message. He transmits the message through what? Through a channel. Okay, and he transmits the message to the receiver. The receiver at his end, what he does is receives the message from through this channel, and then he decodes the message. So the receiver is going to decode the message. After decoding the message, the receiver is going to give the feedback, okay, to the sender again. If there is some problem that is happening in encoding and coding of the message, or there is some problem that is happening in because of the channel, then that process is known as the noise.